Okay, so let's kickstart today's session. Right, so for today, we will be taking a look at the economic events for a start, right, to see if there are any key upcoming events. At the same time, we will also go through our chart setups. So there are a few chart setups that we would like to take a look at. So let's take a look at those. Right, so in this case, right, I'll first go on to the economic calendar. So let me just share my screen. Okay, so you should be able to see the screen, and I've also had the Q&A box as well as the chat box open. So if you guys have any questions regarding the charts, right, any setups, please just put them under the questions tab. Okay, so let's see this. Right, so let's go to Forex Factory for a start to take a look at the key upcoming events. So you can either use Vantage Markets, Economic Calendar, or Forex Factory. So for this, I'll just switch it to my local time as well as the calendar. Right, so usually I'll filter out the key news events. So for the key news events that we have, right, coming up would be on Kiwi as well as dollar, right? So dollar, ISM manufacturing PMI, ISM services PMI data. So this would be the upcoming news, right? And for our charts, right? So there are a few charts that I would like to take a look at. One would be on dollar index as well as two other setups. So let's take a look at dollar index for a start. Time frame first on dollar index, right? So you can see that where we are right now, prices are pushing, right? So if you're on the weekly time frame or even the monthly time frame, you can see that prices are currently sitting on this resistance level. So it was a previous resistance then support level. We saw how price interacted with this zone twice. So a sharp reversal off as a resistance before price broke above it. And right now it's currently testing this zone again as a support. So that's one, right? In terms of where stochastics is, you can see that there's still some more room for more downside before it reaches this oversold region. And once price is in the oversold region, right, what we have over here is that we need to wait for an exit of the region as well as a crossover, right? So bullish cross of the fast line above the slow line. And once that happens, then that's when we will take a look at setups, right? So in this case, you can see that prices are currently sitting on a resistance turn support area. This is the picture on the monthly. If you go to the weekly time frame, we can see that right now within this pullback leg itself on the weekly, there is a resistance turn support level, or rather support turn resistance level here. We saw how price came in, tested this zone before it broke above. And right now prices are again testing this zone as a resistance. So this is the picture on the weekly. If you're on the daily time frame, we can see that prices are currently testing this zone, right? So the weekly resistance area. And if you take a look at what we have in terms of structure, on the left, you can see that again, right? Prices are forming lower lows and lower highs. So subsequent lower low and lower highs, this suggests that prices are still in a downtrend. So when price pushes up, right, this impulsive move up and that pullback, within this pullback leg itself, you can see that prices are currently forming your bearish market structure. So on the daily time frame, we need price to break and close above the zone, right, before we could see a further pullback. So right now, where we are on the daily, it's that prices are currently sitting on this resistance area here. So you can see that it's sitting on this resistance area. And if you go into the 4 hours time frame, right now on the 4 hours, there is again a resistance and support level, right? So price came into this area. So this was on Wednesday, 8 p.m. So yeah, we saw this move, right? So on Wednesday, when we did our analysis, we were somewhere here in time, right? So we highlighted this zone as a support level, and this region was a support level because of how price interacted with this zone earlier, right? So you can see that it tested as a resistance before price broke above it, and right now it's testing this support. Okay, so if you're on the 4 hours time frame, you can see that there are subsequent higher lows and higher highs that are being formed, right? So just on the 4 hours itself, this is still bullish market structure. If I take a look at the recent highs and lows, you can see that prices are forming higher lows, higher highs coming into this resistance area here. So again, right, if we want to see any confirmation of a change in structure, this is the last low that we have. that's being formed. So we need price to break and close below this low before there's confirmation for more downside. Okay, so right now where it is on the 4 hours, you can see that it's still bullish and prices just tested the support zone. And right now it's pushing higher. So where we are currently, you can see that it's trading between this range. So having highlighted all these support areas, right, and we also found retracement levels that line up with these zones, what we can do next, right, it's to see where prices currently are right now. So prices are currently sitting on this area above the support zone. It is also approaching the resistance area that we have above. So this is at around 105.32 level. So between this area, right, this support zone is still valid. And the reason why it's still valid is because you can see that it hasn't been violated. Right? So price came, tested it twice. We saw a push or a bounce up from this zone. Right. So what we're going to do next is that you can see that right now there's some kind of zigzag pattern that's developing here. So apart from just using our retracement levels on the support zone, you can also find if there are any extension levels here. So for extension levels, right, again, there's zigzag pattern. So this is basically the zigzag pattern that we have. And these are the 3 turning points, right? So having identified our zigzag pattern, right, when we have these 3 turning points that we can use to project the extension, you can take those 3 points. And again, right, we just want to take the most recent extension levels. So the common ones that I use would be 61.8, 78.6, and 100%. So in this example, the 100% is the one that lines up with the zone, right? So this is an area that we want to watch. So this is the picture on dollar index, right? Currently, it is approaching a resistance area, but if you're on a 4 hours time frame, you can see that until price breaks below the support area, which stands at around 104.20, right? Until there's a break below this level right now on the 4 hours, is still showing bullish market structure, right? So apart from the bullish market structure, you can see that there is some kind of channel that prices are potentially holding. Okay, not so much of a channel. It's not really a channel because for a channel to be valid, we need a tap of a support and resistance area twice. It's not being tested twice, so I will not consider this a channel yet. Right, so let's just remove this. Right, so currently there isn't much zone that we have here, right, just these 2 levels. So levels are pretty much still intact. Let me just close this. Okay, so again, if price comes into a resistance area here on the weekly, right, if we see any reversal on the smaller time frame, we need a break of the last low, which is the structure here, before there's confirmation to the downside, right? All this level still stays the same. You can see that in terms of how price came in and interacted with the zones as resistance and support. So these are the areas for me still, right? So that's still the same. For me on dollar index, right, as long as price holds above this area, I think we could still see more upside. Of course, you have to be aware, right, given that it is coming into a weekly resistance here. But if there is any respect of this zone, right, on the smaller time frame, you'll first see that change in structure on the smaller time frame before we see this a further downside. Okay, so this is the picture for me on dollar index, right? Let's take a look at gold. Okay, so let's see where gold is right now. So on gold, you can see that on the higher time frame first. So if you're on the higher time frame on gold on the monthly, right, prices are sitting on a resistance area. We also did a Fibonacci retracement of this move. You can see that this is the push and the pullback, right? So this is the highest point, this is the lowest point. So we did a retracement of this move and found that the 78.6 retracement lines up with this resistance area here. Right, so this is the picture on the monthly, and likewise on the weekly, you have a support region. The support region here, it's found by taking, again, just looking at how price interacted with this zone. You can see that this blue area that was being highlighted, price came in to test it as both a support and resistance. Likewise, if we were to switch it to line chart or in close, you can see that I can draw a horizontal line across that divides this chart neatly in half, both as a resistance and a support. So this is the zone that prices are currently testing. We're seeing a reversal of this level. So apart from just taking support resistance levels, right, we took a look at Fibonacci retracements and extensions as well. So what we did with this, right, we identified the move. You can see that this is the push up and the pullback. So this retracement, low to high, right, we took a retracement with this as a starting point and this as the ending point. So when we did that, you can see that the 50% retracement lines up here. So that's one, right? And if you go further into the daily time frame, you can see that there is also an extension level that we went through on Wednesday, right? So this was highlighted in pink. You can see the zigzag pattern here. Again, once you've identified the zigzag pattern, you can take these 3 turning points, right, to project the extension levels. So these are the 3 points. You can see this area here. So right now, if we move down to the 4 hours time frame, you can see that prices are currently sitting on this resistance area, right? So price came in, tested a resistance area here, did a slight pullback, respected the support zone over here before it continues to the upside. So I think that price could continue to trend higher, right? So you can see that this resistance zone is no longer valid here. And on the higher time frame, we are seeing a respect of this support area, right? So price came in, tapped into the support area, and what you can see following this, right? If you take a look at the most recent structure, you can see subsequent higher lows and higher highs being formed, right? So highs. So if I have to mark out just the highs and lows on the most recent move, put it in close, right? You can see this is a low, we have a new low, and then price, sorry, this is a low, right? A new low, right? Price form the high and a new high, right? You have a potential channel that's being developed as well. But again, right, let's see if, yeah, there is actually a channel being formed here, bullish channel, you can see here, right? So for a channel to be valid, again, we need a tap of resistance and support twice. So once that is all right, then we have a bullish channel. So prices are holding above a bullish channel. And on top of that, right, we have these areas. Yeah. So for me, the gold, it's still bullish, right? And if you take a look at it, so let me just delete this. So you can see the resistance levels are being violated, whereas support levels are constantly holding. So if I to just zoom back further, right, just move back slightly from where we left off earlier, you can see that price came in, right, tested this as a support region. And if you were to shrink this chart slightly to the left, you can see that this region was also respected as both a support and resistance. Likewise, if I were to put it in line chart, you can once again draw a horizontal line across that divides the chart. You can see the price came in to test both the top and bottom of the chart very neatly. Okay, so this is one area, and the next area that we have is this resistance and support area. Once again, right, even if I were to stretch this zone to the left, you can see this similar area here. Right, so price came in, tested this as a resistance, support, right, and then coming in to test this as a support again. If I put it in line chart, you can see pretty much the same setup, right? So price coming in to test this region as a support and resistance before price broke above it and closed below this level as a resistance. But as a support, right? So we have all these areas here. So for me, gold right now, it's still bullish, right? It's sitting on this resistance and support area. And what we have here, right? So let's see this zone. So once we have this area, the next thing that we want to do, so we've highlighted the support region, right? What's the next thing that we would like to do? So this support area was what we found previously, but you can see that this Fibonacci retracement is no longer valid because this was the highest point that we had when we did the analysis on Wednesday, but following which you can see that price move, right? So there isn't any more retracement here. So right now, let's do a fresh retracement. So you can see this is the push up, and we're seeing a pullback, right? This is currently the highest point that we have. So we can take a retracement of this low and this high here, right? So when you do a retracement of this move from low to high, retracement on this move, you can see that the 38.2%, it's in line with the first first support area that we have over here. And the second Fibonacci retracement is in line with this zone. So these are the two areas that we have here. So as long as price holds above this zone, I think that we could see more upside into the resistance area, right? Where's the next resistance area that we have? The next resistance area that we have, it's actually this zone here. So you can see this zone here. Right, so again, this is a support and resistance area. Even if I were to look slightly to the left, extend this point across, you can see that this zone again was tested as both a support and resistance. Just see how price interacted with these areas, right? So this region where there's consolidation, prices ranging sideways before a clear break. So if you take a look at it and close, right, once again, I can divide this chart neatly across here. Okay. Same of this area, this zone specifically. Okay, so it's the region. Right, so this is the zone for me on the higher time frame. So right now, right, we're just seeing a pullback. This is on a 4 hours. So if you go on to the 15 minutes time frame, right? So on the 15 minutes, you can see even subsequent move up, right? Still very bullish. higher lows, higher highs being formed, right? So just mark out the significant higher lows and higher highs. So this is the last leg. So any pullback into this leg itself is still bullish for me, right? And also, where is the most support level, right? You can see the most immediate support level is this region here. Resistance turn support level, right? And this is the last leg. So if we do see a pullback into this area, right, you can once again take a Fibonacci retracement starting from low to high here. And what that gives us, right? So when you take a retracement of this move from low to high, you can see that the 61.8%, it's lining up with this resistance area. Okay, so this is the picture, right, on the higher time frame. So this is on the 15 minutes, right? So as long as price pulls back into this zone, we could see more upside into the resistance area here. If you want to go with a bigger time frame, right? So let's say if you're more conservative, because the smaller the time frame you go, the choppier it gets, right? And the noisier it gets, right? So on the 1 hour time frame, we can see that this region over here, right? This is the last support level. And prices are pulling up here. So what we have currently is that if price pulls into resistance area, right, and it breaks above the resistance area, then that forms our new structure. Currently is testing this resistance area here, but as what we saw in market structure, right, this high itself, it did not actually break the previous low. You can see that it came into a support zone, and then following which what happens is that price just continues trending higher. So what this suggests is that if there are any long positions, right, you can target this high. So this high will be a potential take profit target because this high itself did not break the previous low, so this high is a potential target. So when price breaks above this move, right, if it breaks above the previous structure, then what we have is that this low itself is the last low that took out the high. So any pullback into this zone, right, this whole leg itself would serve as the last leg, and any pullback would just be an area of opportunity for us to enter the position. Okay, so that's a potential setup that we can look at. Right, so of course, along this move up, right, where we want to get out of the position, or where would we be wrong on our idea? It's when price. So if there's a break above the last high or the last structure, you can see that this is the last low that took out the high. So if price breaks below this level, right, this is when we're wrong on the idea. So this is when we might want to consider getting out of the position. Okay, so this is the setup on gold right now on the H1, right? H1, H4. Okay, let's take a look at another setup on euro dollar. Okay, and if you guys have any other setups, right, do put your questions. I mean, if you have any charts that you want us to take a look at, right, please feel free to put them under the questions tab. Okay, so euro dollar previously, you can see that it's been on a strong downtrend. Right, so prices pushed lower, came into a support region, and right now, if you take a look at the most recent structure here, right, you can see that just on the 1 hour or even on the 4 hours time frame, it's forming subsequent higher lows and higher highs. Right, you can see that clearly on the 1 hour. So if you take a look at a 1 hour structure, you have, let me just remove all this. Right, there is a high that's being formed and a new low, and you can see a subsequent higher high. Price came into this region, right? So if you guys take a look at other blocks, so here. Right, so essentially there is this sharp move down before price continues much higher. So this for me, it's an area to consider, right? So price came in, tapped into this zone, and you can see that as usual, right? So if we have a low that breaks the previous high, this low itself should not be violated in an uptrend. So if price breaks below this level, right, that's the first sign of a change in structure on the 1 hour time frame. If not, right, if price continues to trend higher, then what this suggests is that this high would be a potential target. Okay, so this is the picture on the 1 hour, right? But before that, let's take a look at what we have on the higher time frames first. So if you're on the higher time frame, you can see that just based on the daily time frame, we have resistance and support area here. Right, so seeing how price reacted with this zone, hesitated again here, broke above, tested as a support, tested again, currently sitting on it as a support. If you put it in line chart, you can see the same area as well. So the zone that was being highlighted and how price reacted with these regions. Okay, so this is on the daily time frame, right? And where's the resistance area on the daily, right? For me, is this area here. So again, right, the most recent moves, price coming in to test it as a support, failing and testing this as a resistance. So having found these zones, right, what we want to do next is try and see if there are any retracements or extension levels that line up with this area. So for retracement levels, right, we have this region. So for retracement, you can see that this is the area here, right? So this is the high and this is the low. So price pushed down and we're seeing that pullback. So what you can do with this move, right? Taking a retracement from high to low, So let's see what it gives us, right? So from high to low, you have your 50% retracement in line with the zone, right? So this is one. And what you can also do with this area, right? So this is actually the last move up. The best retracement level to take is actually from this move, but let's see if it gives us anything, right? If not, you will have to take a retracement from here all the way up. So let's see what that gives us, right? So Fibonacci retracement from low to high first. Again, right, we'll take the key levels. You can see 78.6 is no longer valid, right? So another level that we have, right, 88.6. So this is the zone. So you can see that this is not commonly used, right? But this is also a level. So you can see that price came into this zone, right? And right now it's just hovering around this region. So if you're on the 4 hours time frame, we can see bullish structure. We can see that price came into the extreme of this move, the last low that broke the high, right? Right now it's supporting this area here. So first H1, right, it's actually bullish order flow. And more importantly, right, so on the H1, on the M30, so right now we have the direction. We're trying to find if there are any opportunities to enter the position. So you can see at this area, right, we have a resistance then support area. And right now prices broke above the resistance and is currently testing this as a support, right? So if you put it in close, you can see this as well. Price coming in to test it as a resistance, broke and close above it, testing as a support before continuing on the upside. So this for me, it's a support region, right? So what we can do with this, again, try and find if there are any retracement levels that line up with this zone. So you can take a retracement from low to high here. And once you do that, right, you can see here, right, the 23.6 retracement. I'll put it in. I just leave it as it is, right, the color. So 23.6 retracement lining up with the support area. So this is the most immediate region, right? On the 1 hour, you also have a lower time frame resistance area here, right? But understanding that if prices were to continue higher, right, this is a potential target. So this is where you want to consider either taking partials, right, or protecting the position. Okay, we have requests for DAX as well as US 100. So yes, I'll take a look at it in a moment further. Okay, so yeah, so this is the area here, right? So for me, I think we could still see much further upside here, at least to this resistance area. Again, when you have this resistance area, we're trying to find if there are any retracement levels that line up with the zone. So the retracement level here, taken from this high ending at this low, you can see the 61.8 retracement at this zone, right? So if we do see more upside, that's the area to watch, right? Right now, there isn't a 9, so there is a support level over here, but you can see that where we are here, right, there isn't some kind of structure where we can keep our position, right, or an area where we want to get out of the position. Because right now, if you're on the 4 hours, right, anywhere between this leg itself is still bullish, right? So for me, this, even though this is a valid setup, but the risk to reward ratio isn't that great. If this is the low, right, you can see that this is probably about less than 1:1 risk to reward. So in this case, right, I'll probably wait for another opportunity. Sure. Okay, so this is my view on euro dollar, right? Let's take a look at DAX as well as US 100. Okay, so let's take a look at the higher time frame first, right? So if you're on the higher time frame on DAX, you can see that currently prices are pulling back. So price came into a support level, right? I don't think it actually pushed. So it actually pushed into the support level, right, before that reversal. Okay, so on the higher time frame first, again, coming into the monthly time frame, we have a potential resistance area that prices are coming into. Again, if you're to put it in close, you can see this zone, right? And if we're on weekly time frame, we don't really have much, right? Not too different from the monthly. So on the daily time frame, we have a potential descending channel where prices are testing, right? So back when we did the analysis on Wednesday, right, it was here. So yeah, you can see that price pushed into the support level here. Wednesday, yeah, somewhere here. Right, so right here. So this is on the daily, right? So on the daily, basically we highlighted a descending channel. You can see that prices are forming lower lows and lower highs. And for a channel to be considered valid, right, we need a tap of it as both a resistance and support. So I'll just widen the color of this area, right? So this is the descending channel that we've highlighted. So you can see that price came in, right? So price came and tapped into the support region that we have. And right now we're seeing a push up, but it is still holding below the descending channel. Okay, so this is the picture on the daily. When you're on the 4 hours time frame, right? So what we have here, so this is interesting. So you can see on the 4 hours, right? We have this descending channel, we have this resistance area here. And on the 4 hours, you see subsequent lower lows and lower highs being formed, right? So just mark out the last structure. You can see here on the 4 hours, right? If I put it in close, you can see high, subsequent low, right? And right now, right? Prices are forming again lower low, lower high. But take a look at the most recent structure. So if you focus on just this portion of the chart, right, what we can see here, again, price came in, tapped into this demand area over here, right? This blue zone that we've highlighted. It's also the base or the support of the descending channel. And right now we're seeing a strong rejection of this region. So apart from that, right, what this also suggests is that you can see that there is a resistance area here. Price pushed into this low, but this resistance area or this high itself, right, failed to break this low. So it fails to break below this low, it just wicks slightly below it, right, before closing higher. So what this means is that this high itself, it's a weak high, right? So it's a potential target for long positions, and we could see this high being run. So price could push higher into this resistance area that we have over here before we see that reversal. So for me, this idea is still valid, right? And it's valid because price could break above this region that we have over here and push into this zone. So again, right, are we taking any immediate positions? When price comes into this resistance area, right, how do we know whether this is going to be respected? Right? So how we know this is going to be respected? This is based on whether there is a change in structure on the lower time frame, right? So on the lower time frame, if you're on the 1 hour or even on the lower time frame that we have over here, right? If prices continue to form higher lows, if prices continue to form higher lows and higher highs coming into this region, right? We want to make sure that there is a respect of this resistance area. So if price comes into this zone and breaks below, there's a change in structure, right? Then this is the first sign that we could be seeing a respect of this region and a reversal from here. Okay, so for me, this is still valid, right? On DAX 30, these are still the zones to watch. If price breaks above this descending channel, right, we could see more upside. But if that's the case, then we need to once again wait for a change in structure. If there's a break of the last low, right, you can see that right now on the 4 hours, there's a break of the last low, hence the bearish market structure. But if there is a change, right, so if price breaks above this region, then we will need to wait for price to develop further to see if there's new updates on that. But right now, where we are, for me, this is still the resistance zone to watch. Okay, so this is on DAX 30, right? Let's take a look at US 100. Okay, so on US 100, let's do a fresh analysis, right? Seems like there are a lot of levels here. So on US 100, what we have, right, on the higher time frame first. So if you're on the picture on the monthly, right, there isn't any resistance support levels on the monthly. So let me just remove all this, right? So the picture on the monthly time frame, we have a potential support level that price came in, tested this zone before. And if you're on the weekly time frame, you can see that price tested the support region, and right now it's holding below a potential descending channel. Potential, right? So let's see. So again, for descending channel to be valid, you need a tap of a resistance and support level twice, right? So there's a potential level to watch, right? But again, these are the higher time frame zones. You have a potential resistance area here as well. And why this is a resistance, looking at how price interacted with this zone, you can see that price came in, right? And there is a sharp rejection of this area once, and then again over here. And if we put it in close, you can see the same thing as well, sharp rejection here and then here again. This is the picture on the weekly time frame, right? And then we have this region. So you have a resistance area. And right now, if you're on the daily time frame, you can see that price broke above structure here. And right now it's doing a pullback. So price broke above the resistance area, the previous resistance area. And right now we're in this leg. And right now we're seeing a pullback into the zone. So in terms of the most immediate daily support structure or daily support level that we have, right, the daily support level that we have over here, it's actually this area, right? So you can see why it's a resistance or support area, right? So price came into this zone. You can see price coming in to test this as a support and then rejecting it as a resistance. And right now it's just coming back into this area. So this is one area to watch. If you put it in close, right, you can see that again, I can draw a horizontal line across that divides this chart neatly. So this area, right, or this zone itself is an area where price interacted with this region. So what we can do next with this, right, again, take a retracement of this, move from low to high and see what that gives us. So when you take a Fibonacci retracement of this, move from low to high, you can see the 61.8 retracement here. Okay, what we can also do next is to check our Fibonacci extension. So they're basically zigzag patterns. So this is the zigzag patterns, and these are the three points that we can take our extension from. So once you have that, right, you can take a look at the extension level. So 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3. And you can see that the 100% extension, right, lying just slightly lower. So this is another zone, right? So this area, basically, right, this zone that we have highlighted in gray, right, this is the area that we would like to watch. Okay, so we could see a deeper pullback into this zone, right? So this is the picture on the daily for me, right? There are no other levels right now where we have a resistance area here. You can see support and resistance area. Once again, if I were to extend the chart to the left, you can see that at this level, right, price came in to test it as both a support and resistance. Okay, so this is the picture on the daily. If you're on the 4 hours time frame, you can see that on the 4 hours, right, there are subsequent lower lows and lower highs being formed, just the most recent structure, right? Lower lows, lower highs that are being formed. So for me, it's still bearish because we could still see more downside, right, at this area here, right? So you have a potential channel as well, descending channel. Not so much here. Okay, but for me, right, as long as, so this is actually the last low. So if you take a look at the low, right, or if you put it in line chart, you can see that this is actually the last low and price form a new low. So this is the last high that took out the low. So price could pull back into this resistance area, right, before we see a further downside. So for me, this resistance area is the picture on the 4 hours. Right, so this is the picture on the 4 hours. You can again try and find if there are any levels that line up here. So let me just remove the higher time frame levels because it's not necessary, right? So in this case, what you want to do again, retracement of the move, right? So you can see that this is the most immediate move before the pullback, right? This is actually the highest point, but anywhere in between, we can actually see quite a bit of whipsaw. So I want to take the most immediate move. So taking from the highest point to the lowest point, right? When you open up these key levels, you can see that the 38.2%, right, lines up with this resistance area that we have on the 4 hours. I'll just put this in blue, right? So we have this region here, right? So we could see a reversal from here, right? So of course, this is the immediate target, which also means that if price comes into this zone, right, this is when we want to manage the position here, right? So if price breaks above the 4 hours resistance, it breaks above the high, then there should be a potential change in structure. We could see a deeper pullback into this whole leg. So that's when there will be so this area, right? So this high that we have, right? So this is also a resistance area on the 4 hours. So if price breaks above this zone, right, this is when there's a potential change in structure. We want to get out of the position because we might be wrong on the idea. Okay, so I hope that answers your question further. Okay, so with that, we have come to the end of the session, right? So if you guys have any other questions, please feel free to put them under the chat. If not, right, that's the session that we have for today. So for next week as well, we will be having our educational series as well as live session, right? So next week, if you have if you guys want to sign up for the session, right, do sign up for them under Vantage at Vantage Webinar. You're very welcome further. Okay, so you can go to vantagemarkets.com/webinars, right? That would, right? So at vantagemarkets.com, you can actually, okay, you can just sign up for them at vantagemarkets.com/webinars. Okay, so this is the site, right? You can see that we have webinars on a daily basis. You can sign up for them. We have the speakers as well as the topics that are being covered. Okay, so with that, we have come to the end of the session, right? Thanks everyone. Stay safe, trade safe, and we will catch you guys again soon.